All right, welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is Luke Dusenbury. If you have seen GoHunt's Hard Times or Nothing But Daylight or Leupold's River's Bend, you're familiar with his work. Thanks for being on here, Luke.
Jeff, thanks for having me, man.
So I didn't know that I was listening to the podcast, the GoHunt podcast that was recapping Hard Times that you did. I didn't know that you did the Nothing But Daylight Caribou GoHunt film as well. That was a great one. I really liked that one a lot.
Yeah, that was one of the funnest hunts for sure I've ever been on. That was back in 2021. We went kind of like mid to late August, and it was just a really, really fun time.
So that was right as we were kind of coming out of COVID. And you'd mentioned, we talked very briefly that when you were in high school, you were positioning yourself to maybe become a teacher at some point, or did that start to happen after high school?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So let's see. In high school, I really was into baseball. That was kind of like my number one passion in life, and it like doing all my like school classes and stuff. I went to a small private school in Medford, Oregon, and my favorite classes were history. And like I swear every single history teacher I had was just like the coolest guy, just made it super fun to learn. And I don't know, it was like a huge like passion for me early on in school. And just having like those teachers, just as I was growing up and through middle school and high school, especially, I was just like, I don't know, I could kind of see myself being like, just like the cool, chill history, teacher or whatever, just because I liked the subject, obviously, but I also loved just like the, how important it is for shaping your worldview. Especially with like everything going on in the world right now. Like, I just think history is so valuable, and just having like such a good foundation is important, whether you're, going to school to be a teacher or whether you're going to school to be like a nurse or a trade school or whatever. Like, I think it's just such an important foundation to have, just having a solid foundation in history, both American history, but also just like world history in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like when I talk to creatives and people on the podcast, I like to ask who they were in high school, because it seems like very few people know exactly what they want to do when they're in high school, but there's something that flickers, or some sort of interest, or some sort of thing that they can look back on and say, that was the thing that led me down this pathway. And maybe it wasn't that, I wanted to do this exactly, but I remember conversation, I remember something, and that was really insightful. And it kind of reminds me as a teacher to, just look for those opportunities to help fuel some sort of other passion. So it's not going to be about English. There's no kid I ever teach has become an English teacher, or taught has become an English teacher. A couple have become journalists, but looking for that and be able to feed that and present this in a way that says, hey, this is how it's going to be relatable. This is how it's going to be beneficial, because that's usually the big thing. It's how is this going to relate to my life later on? And a lot of times it can be a difficult thing for a teacher to explain.
Mm-hmm.
Was there
Totally.
like a moment, you mentioned the history stuff, but was there like a moment where you thought, man, this is what I want to do with my life?
Yeah, I'd say, to be honest, in high school, not really. But looking back, with hindsight, I definitely saw some small seeds that were planted. Like, for example, in one of my Bible classes, I think in ninth grade, we had the opportunity, we were doing a group project, and we had the opportunity to like do like, a standard like presentation, like 3 to 4 minutes, or, do like an essay, or do like a video. And I remember me and my best friends were always just trying to do the least. I felt like, on certain group projects. And so we're like, oh, we'll do a video. That sounds kind of fun. And I remember we had like, it was back in the day when you had the tapes on the handy cams, and you had to like record to the tape and then have the fire wire into the computer, and then like basically screen record from the camera. It was like, we didn't really know what we were getting into. We thought, oh, we'll just do like a little video about David and Goliath, and that'll be that. But basically we did that, and I really realized, I'm like, oh, it's like kind of fun to like put a story together, plan out like scenes and, the whole shebang. And so like, I look back at a couple of those little video projects. Another one I did was for an anatomy class. So we did on I can't even remember the three parts of the ear, like the cochlea, the hammer or anvil, and the stirrup. I can't fully remember, but we did like a video about the ear and how the ear does so much more than just hearing. Like, it's so important with like balance and all these other things. And I remember we did like a 15-minute video on it, and it was just like me and my best friends. And my teacher gave us 100%. Like, he loved it. Like, and we watched it in front of the whole class. And I look
Nice.
back on that and I was like, yeah, at the time I was like, oh, this is like hilarious and fun. But I didn't think like super long term about it. I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
that was like a really fun thing. And I remember like, editing it and putting it all together and just like loving the whole process. And I mean, I look back at that video now, it's actually on the very deepest recesses of my YouTube channel, I think, still. And I still, laugh occasionally, and we'll pull it up and we'll give it a watch. But yeah, I don't know. I look back at those and definitely see the seeds. But at the time, I was just like so focused on, baseball and friends and, just, all the things
Mhm.
in high school that you got going on. I just didn't really see it as like a viable, like, even really dream. I was just like, I should, go to school and get a degree and just get like a normal job. Like, nothing too like creative was like truly like, I didn't have my sights on anything truly in the creative sphere.
Yeah, to really extend that metaphor, about planting the seed. Like, it takes a long time for a seed to become a tree or a flower or whatever. People think that all of a sudden, oh, you just all of a sudden started making films for GoHunt. Like, there was no,
Yeah.
I decided to do it, and then I just, sure, hey man, this guy Luke contacted me and he wants to make films, so sure, we'll pay your way to go to the Arctic to shoot caribou. Like, it takes time and a process, and I guess it's underground for a while too before it really starts to happen. You mentioned your
Yep.
YouTube channel. How often do you go back and look at some of those old things? It can be kind of embarrassing. I compiled a book with some of my older
Oh yeah.
writing, and I'm looking at some of my old columns. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wrote that. You're such a better writer now. And sometimes the ideas were kind of there, things that I tried, and it's, oh gosh, kind of cringeworthy. How often do you go back and look at your improvement?
Oh, I'd say like probably I try and go back a little bit, like maybe like once every 6 months or at least once a year. And I like having like my old work up, just I don't know. I don't really believe in like just only having like your best foot forward. Like, if you scrolled on my Instagram, all you could go all the way back to high school and see just like the dumbest photos. I don't know, just like, or like my very early like photos I took with like a GoPro, and like how I edited when I first got Lightroom. Like, just like I like being able to go back and just not only see for myself, but also maybe like have available online for people to also see, like, oh, like that's how like that's where he started off or whatever it may be. That's like, I could be like a good example, or because like that's the thing too, like people only see like the highlight reel, like people don't see the years and years and years of trial and error and figuring things out, and just doing things because you love it. And then all of a sudden, yeah, like you can maybe do something on the side with your hobby or your passion, or maybe it can, if if it all works out, be a full-time thing. But
So, as you're getting better, who was inspiring you, or what were you inspired by? Was it outdoor filming? Like, I know a lot of people, it doesn't have to be the exact same genre. You can learn about good writing from someone who doesn't write the same genre. So, were you watching like a film, like a movie, Hollywood movie, and think, oh, that's a cool shot that I can maybe incorporate into my outdoor filmmaking? What was inspiring you to help you get better?
yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question. I'll do my best to answer it. I would say I kind of drew a lot of inspiration from a lot of different things, but namely, like I got a GoPro. That was like my first real camera that I would consider like it being like fully my own. I didn't borrow like my mom's or my aunt's or whatever. Like, I got a GoPro when I was 20, and that was in 2015. And basically, I just kind of took that and was just trying to like learn, okay, how do I take a photo with like this crazy wide angle lens, and just learning all the different settings on it, because like those early GoPros, you could have some sort of manipulation of like manual settings and stuff, and just trying to get a grasp on those things, and just basically just trial and error, and just really trying to like go all in with that. And then right when I got that, that's when GoPro was like really pumping out these like incredible, like, they're basically like their hype videos for their newest camera. So you can go back and watch like the Hero 3 launch video. That's probably like the first real video I saw where I was like, oh my word, this is like what I want to do. Which it sounds crazy because that's like not what I'm doing at all right now. Because, because it's like dudes like surfing and like jumping out of planes and going underwater. And I was like, this is incredible. Like this little camera can do so much. And then they use like really cool songs, and it just made it feel like you watch the video and you got like this feel from it. And that was the first time I really had, got the outside of like maybe like watching like Lord of the Rings or something. Cause that's like, that's the only thing I would say, like just like watching some like really high end movies. I've always, just loved movies. And that's something I've always like have tried to draw inspiration from too. Just like, how do they craft a story? How do they build, a scene and that kind of thing. And so I'm still a huge movie buff now. Lord of the Rings is still my favorite movie. I try and watch it at least once a year. But yeah, just trying to get inspiration from a lot of different things. And then one thing I actually kind of going back to the whole like early seeds of like creative passion that you had kind of were talking about. I was talking to my wife actually about like when I was a kid, I like always have loved music, especially like music videos. And I know some people like don't like music videos because it like ruins a song for them. But for me, like from a young age, I like loved the visual aspect of like the music video, whether it's like the performance side of it or the story that the director was trying to tell with the song and, the band and all that stuff. But I remember like coming home from school, like every day, like middle school, high school, and just watching like the Christian music video channel and just like, and a lot of it would just be reruns, like the top 10 music videos of the week or the month or whatever. But I remember just watching those as a kid and just like, loving it, number one, for the music, but also subliminally. And at the time I didn't really realize it, but just like loving the visual side of it and just getting inspired from that as well. Just like, like I said, subliminally, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm watching this because I want to do this. Like, it was just like, oh, this is really cool. Mm-hmm. That's kind of more how it started. But yeah.
Yeah, I think when you pay attention, you absorb a lot of different things. And being inspired doesn't have to come from the exact person that is doing what you want to do. I think a lot of people are listening to a lot of, I guess, Joe Rogan is an example. When he has a lot of these high-performing people in their fields, you just get motivated by something. I'm not going to run like David Goggins. That's not the point, or whoever else that he has on there. You're just inspired by people who are getting after it. And so you can watch I'm not going to jump out of an airplane in a Red Bull suit with a GoPro on my head. And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But there's something that I can think, how can I live my life in a way that's going to be fulfilling? I'm not a adrenaline junkie in that regard, but how can I get after it? I did make a note about the music in your films. Sometimes it seems like some videos, and this is not to, just because I don't like something doesn't mean that it's bad or anything, but some videos or some films, it seems like the music is just put in there, like this will work, or it's like a background thing. But as the Lord of the Rings soundtrack is epic, and it provides so much to the storytelling. So I think when you're watching a film, it shows that someone has taken music and made it more like, hey, this is going to be, I guess it's kind of over dramatizing it, but this is the score that goes with this film, and it's going to match the film. It's not just going to be some stock something that goes in there. It's just some background noise.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, just filler, yeah, like whenever I am putting together like a hunting film or what have you, I try and pick the music almost before I even start really getting into the edit of it. Just because especially if it's a film that I've captured and I was in the field and I was there experiencing all the highs and lows and everything. Like, it's a lot easier for me to kind of like piece together the different, basically like chapters or scenes, and then also go and scroll through the various music licensing websites like Artlist and what have you, and just start listening and be like, oh, that's like, I kind of like envision like a little atmosphere music here, or how can I like maybe put a creative spin on the climax where we find the animal and make the stock and kill it. Like, how can I like tell that story like that best is the number one most authentic way to tell it, but also just like make you really feel like you're sitting there waiting, or build that suspense up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So just like finding stuff like that, or if there's like like a really cool like hype type scene of just like really cool fast paced shots, like what song or music could go with that, or and then basically it's just like it's kind of like I view it as like you're trying to weave that music and sound and atmosphere. I like trying to do that before I even start editing it.
Mm-hmm. My dad was a music teacher, and so there would always be like epic classical music being played at home, and he would point out certain things. And I remember the NBC song for the NBC Nightly News. I think it was NBC Nightly News, but it was like this epic sort of, and my dad just loved it. And I was like, why does he love this so much? And so again, it's that kind of planting the seed, and then you understand why, and it kind of becomes the soundtrack, and certain elements come out in your daily life. When you were out there filming, are you thinking about music as it's going, or do you have to wait until the hunt is over to then apply music to it? Because I'm assuming that you could probably get some like Gladiator theme song playing in your head when you're doing some of these hunts.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I always have music kind of going through my head when I'm out there, especially, or if we're having a like long pack out, I like to play some music just to kind of help get my mind off the physical exertion. But yeah, I typically don't like really deep dive into music until I get back. Occasionally I'll when I'm out there, I'll take some notes on my phone, just like on my notes app, and just be like, this clip number would be great for this type of scene or what have you, or like this was what I was thinking as I was going through that, or like oh, like I really need to have like this little sound bite of like, so like the hunter saying this sentence, like that's gotta be in there. I'll take a little note like that. But yeah, I just I don't know, just try and be like, not only just like filming it, but like thinking like for the edit as well, I think is super, super important when you're out there.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a difficult time staying focused on the story that's being told rather than the one that you might have gone in there with? As a column writer, I'm out there and I'm experiencing something and I want the story to go this way, but the story ends up being something somewhere else. And so if I don't allow the story that happened to be the one that I write, there's kind of this tug of war between what I wanted it to be and what it actually was. You have to get over that. Is there ever, are you totally past that? Is that something you still kind of deal with?
Oh no, I still deal with that. Yeah, I feel like it's much harder if it just from the nature of hunting, like if the story doesn't really go how I envisioned it or how I wanted it to go when I was out there capturing it, it definitely makes it harder for me to get the motivation to edit it when I'm just like, dang, like it just didn't really, like, we had all the pieces on the puzzle and then we hit the trailhead and it just didn't pan out. But that's something I've been really trying to like improve on and like surrender myself to, be like, hey, I can't go out there and expect every hunt film to be, for example, like River's Bend, which I think is probably like, in terms of like the whole story and everything, I think that's my favorite hunt film I've ever done, because it was just such a unique thing that happened with me and John Gabriel. on that hunt, and just being out there with him is just, it was one of the first hunts I've ever done was just me and one hunter. Like usually it was before that, I was filming two guys or sometimes more, but it was a unique thing where it was just him and I out there, and just to have the hunt go down the way it did with, the elk in the river, and just like, it's just something you'd like dream of, just, and then taking that. And then my next hunt was like where we got skunked, and I was like, oh my goodness, like going from like the highest high in terms of like as a hunt filmer to like a hunt where it's like we didn't get anything. It's like, oh my goodness. And then, but that's just life. And just like letting that just be like, all right, well, I've got to, I can't let that get me down. I've just got to only worry about just like how the hunter can only worry about what he can control, which is his attitude and his effort. I got to do the same thing with the storytelling aspect of it, and just go from there, and don't let it get me down.
What would you say to someone who maybe has this sense of urgency and they really want this story to be something because this is the hunt that they're going to make it happen, and they're going to have the footage, and this film is going to put them on the map? And in that might lead to some of the shock value, got to get clicks sort of attitude that has, it's already kind of infiltrated. It's always been kind of a part of it. But what would you recommend to someone who's tempted by taking that shock value route rather than just present the story?
Yeah, I would say, odds are if you're really trying to do that and you're really passionate about hunting, it's probably not the only hunt you're going to go on in your lifetime. And if you go on a hunt that doesn't have the shock value, doesn't have the, the, oh my goodness type factor of, what you're envisioning was, like, just put the story together as authentically as what happened, and just try and hope for the next one that maybe has that, incredible story, or that incredible, like, did you see that? Or like, just whatever. I would just say, like, don't try and make something like beyond what it really was. Like, I think that's something that's really important too, is like someone who's telling the story of a hunt, like, just tell it exactly how it was, and just let the pieces fall. And then even when you're out there too, like I've been on several hunts where it's like day 8 and we've barely seen like a deer bigger than a 2x3, and you're just already in your head, talking to yourself like, oh man, this isn't going to be a good film, blah, blah, blah. Like, you start like kind of talking yourself down. You're just like stressing yourself out when you really should just be out there just worrying about like, okay, let's just go one more ridge, or let's just try this, or, not get discouraged, or, like I think just really trying to not listen to that little voice that's always trying to spread self-doubt. Cause like, to use an example, like that exact hunt where we only had seen like a 3-point in 8 days, was, I think it was, what was the name of it? I think it was Good Times, with Chris Neville, another GoHunt film, from a few years ago. But we had just got our butts kicked. We were hunting public land in Montana, and just, driving all over the state was what it felt like. And we just couldn't find a buck. And then on day 9, when like almost all hope seemed lost, like we just found a giant and made a really good stalk and got within 200 yards, and Chris made a perfect shot. Like, and then that's like a hunt I look back on, I'm just like, I've got to remember that, like, cause that's the thing, is just like every hunt's so different, and you just can't let one sour hunt, just be like, oh, well, this is a complete loss. And if, for example, going back to what you're saying, like if, the client or the hunter has these massive expectations, I think just trying to communicate like, hey, this is how it went down. This is like this happened on the hunt, that happened on the hunt, that was out of my control, or, or what have you. I think just communicating that's really, really important. And a lot of clients, they've been doing this for a long time too, and they know that's part of the nature of filming a hunt, and, you just kind of roll with it. And I really do think no matter what happens on a hunt, there's always a story to be told. Mm-hmm.
So I would assume, based on what you've done, you've shot, you've been to Africa, and you film fishing trips, and you've done some of the biggest films in Western hunting to date. I think you could probably take whatever job that you want. When someone does come to you with a job or with a proposal, do you are there certain standards that you go with, or are you pretty in with anybody that you want to work with? What is it like when people come and they're pitching you ideas?
That's a really good question. I would, at this point, I still feel like I have so much to learn, and that's like one of my favorite parts about what it is that I do for work. I feel like I'm always, trying to learn like more about hunting, but also just like how can I film this better? And I don't think I'll ever get to the point where it's like, oh, I know exactly how to do what I'm doing. Like I think that's one thing like I try and tell people is like always be like a student of the game, like always be learning, always, just trying new things, trying a new piece of gear, trying, a new filming technique, trying a new audio technique. Like, cause that's another thing that gets kind of super overlooked. And going back to the whole music thing is just like the infield audio, in my opinion, is such an overlooked thing. Cause I see guys who will go out and buy like an expensive full frame mirrorless camera and, just be like, oh, well, now I can make hunting films. And it's like, well, what's the mic setup you got? Like, what are you doing for audio? Because your brain actually processes audio before the visual when you're taking in media or like being a human. Like for whatever reason, your ears take in the information faster than your eyes do, even though visually your eyes are getting things at the speed of light. So just like little things like that, just like always trying to challenge myself to be a better filmmaker and story taker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a difference between someone who can take pictures, but that doesn't mean that everybody who can take pictures is a photographer. And I think it would go at least double, if not triple that with filmmaking. You can record something, but that's not filmmaking. That's way, way different.
Yeah.
When I was second or third year teaching, like the greatest man I had ever known was this 60-some-year-old teacher. He was 6'6". He played in the NBA for like, 2 games for the Trailblazers in the 70s or something like that. And I remember him saying, I'm still learning how to be a good man. And I'm thinking, what in the world? Like you're in your 60s. Like how can you still, but it made sense later, when you're 22, it's like, once you figure it out, then you can kind of just coast. I would just want to figure out how to be a teacher. But then you realize that everything is an entire process and the context always changes. And because the context always changes, that means you always have to learn and grow, but then you're better prepared to make that next step and that growth mindset that it's not that it's unachievable and you can't attain perfection. And so it's not sad. It's motivating to go forward with that.
Yeah, I think it could be a dangerous place if you're in a place where you think you got it all figured out. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be with hunting or it could be with your 9-to-5 job, your relationship with your spouse, like, anything like that. Like, yeah, I really think every day you have choices to make. You have things to learn on, things to improve on. We're all human. I think it's a really dangerous thing to think that you got it all figured out.
So going back to the teaching thing, so it's 2001. You're a filmmaker. You're up in Alaska, and we're just coming out of COVID. Did you ever think during the COVID time, like, man, thank goodness I didn't become a teacher?
That's funny you mentioned that. I would say even before COVID, I was like, man, I am so thankful that I'm doing what I'm doing, because I've been filming hunts since 2018, and I just at that point in my life when I decided to forego teaching and start trying to do stuff with the photo video industry, my mindset was just like, you know what, I can always go back and be a teacher. And I still have, like, at the time I still had like a passion for it. Like I enjoyed like student teaching and the material and everything, but I was just like, I just had this other passion of photography that was just like literally had a grip on my heart. And I was like, dude, I've got to go for it and crash and burn. And just like, maybe then at that point, just be like, all right, well, I did that. I gave it my all. It just wasn't what the Lord had for my life. And I'm going to try and go back to school and finish my teaching degree, kind of a thing. Like that was just kind of my mindset of just like, no matter what I do, it's a win. So why not just go for it and see what happens? So yeah, that was back in summer of 2018. But yeah, then to fast forward to COVID and just seeing all the things that my mom had to deal with as a secretary at the school district, and just like all the craziness that COVID brought, I was like, I was definitely like, man, I am so glad I don't have to worry about wearing a mask at the job or,
Yeah.
all the things that she was having to deal with. And I was like, yeah, I get to go outside and breathe fresh air and just be, doing what I love to do with guys that I love, also love doing what they're doing, and just get to fellowship and hang out with them. And yeah, extremely, extremely grateful that I just, I didn't have to make some of the decisions that some of those folks had to make.
Yeah. It definitely brought out the worst in all of us because you had the different groups, and we don't even have to go into that, but it was interesting that, and this is maybe because I'm here in Ketchikan, Alaska, but it allowed a lot of kids to build resilience. We talked a lot about resilience, but a lot of kids I'm seeing that they definitely did build it, and they had to decide whether or not they value their education or whether or not they were going to just kind of jump through the hoops and not do the Zooms and not care and use that as an excuse. But it also revealed just the importance of that outside life, and a couple of students who, when we were at our 50% capacity on their Fridays, we didn't meet in person. It was just a Zoom office hours, and so many kids would go, well, not so many, I guess, but it seemed like a lot of kids were out hunting on Fridays because I'm in there at my Zoom office hours that no kids are showing up to. But I'm hearing that, this kid's out hunting and this kid's out hunting and this kid's out hunting. I'm like, what a great, empowering way to deal with the weird stuff that's going on by going out there, going deer hunting with some buddies or going deer hunting with your family, and then being able to bring something back. And I thought, man, that is great. And the people who made it through the best had memories of those where they got closer to the family and they realized what was important. And it's really cool. And I'm very thankful and grateful I was in a place like Ketchikan during that, because even though it was horrible, it made me wonder if I wanted to keep teaching. It's also brought forth some definite value, and just the closeness with the students who kind of got through it together with. And man, it was pretty rewarding. But yeah, it was. I definitely see why people in different areas got out for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really the biggest trial our generation has ever faced, and like with any trials bring about refining. And I think, I mean, looking back just in my life, I'm super grateful for that time, because it forced me in my own ways, in my own circles of influence and what I had going on, to really like refine and have to think about things from an angle I'd never thought about things before, and have discussions I'd never had before, and really have to go to the drawing board about some things in my life. So I'm just looking back on that season, I'm just super grateful. Obviously there was tragedy and things, but for me, it really helped refine a lot of things in my life.
Yeah. So what's next? What do you got on the horizon?
Oh man. Well, currently I'm here on the East Coast, doing a big stint for filming for the Sport Fishing Championship, which is a offshore fishing TV show on CBS Sports Network. And I've been doing that for the last 2 summers, and it's been super fun. I'm a part of a really awesome team of photographers, videographers, and producers, and I'm just learning a ton. I've never, I grew up in Oregon, so sport fishing was not something I'd ever really had a taste of. And it's largely like a East Coast thing. There are some, down in California and Mexico, but it's something I had never had any exposure to really. But really what I love about it is just working with the team of people that I'm working with and just learning from them of how to produce a show that's, being live streamed on TV. As far as I know, I think we are the first TV show that's being live streamed from the ocean, all thanks to Starlink, which is just crazy. So we're figuring out that, and it's just a really cool thing to learn, and just add to my tool belt of, just things that I've learned from just working with these guys and gals, and that I hope can translate into another aspect of my career or my job. And I'm a huge advocate of doing a lot of different things with photography and video if someone is interested in it, just because you never know what can translate into another sphere. So that's how I kind of look at it, is just like, just trying to be a sponge and just always be learning something new, whether that's, how Starlink works on a boat, or just how to do live broadcasting with certain types of cameras that are built for that. And just all the different tools. It's just, it's just a huge passion of mine.
Mm-hmm. Outside of that, what would you recommend to someone who is, like you mentioned that everything is something that you can potentially learn from. What else would you recommend someone who's in the creative space, not necessarily making films, but what would you recommend for them?
One thing, whenever like a younger guy in who wants to get in the industry, or is just looking to get a camera and start shooting with it, one thing I always just lean heavily on is just it never hurts to ask. Like whether that's to shoot for a company or to shoot with someone, or to even if you're just walking the street and you see someone and it just sticks out and you just be like, man, I want to take a picture of them or that, or just you're on a hike with some friends and you just see something that catches your eye and you say, hey guys, can you stop for a second? I just want to take like a group shot or a photo of this valley or whatever. I just think it just never hurts to ask. That's something I really lean on, because that's something that I look back on my career and some of the things that I've had the opportunity to do, and it was just a simple DM a lot of times, or a simple email to hello@suchandsuch.com, just like the most generic email. Just you never know, that email could get trickled down to the person that you're trying to get in touch with. You just truly never know, and if that doesn't happen, if you don't hear back from, or if you say no, or if they say no, you're right back where you were.
Yeah.
So I'm just a huge advocate of that, and also just being an open book about the creative process, because it's the creative process is such a difficult thing, especially like for filming a hunt. There's just so many things you just have to figure out really by almost tripping in the dark sometimes. So just trying to help other people out, and then because you're going to have things that you're going to have questions about, and I ask a lot of different guys in my circle all the time. Is like, hey, what do you think about such and such gear, or such and such philosophy about capturing this or that? And like, I don't know, we're all just trying to iron sharpens iron, kind of thing. I think just being an open book and just trying to help people out.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what else you got for a closer? I appreciate the time. I appreciate you answering the DM that I sent you on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. Yeah, I would say just this fall, I'm really excited about this fall. Got a lot of hunts lined up, probably the most I've ever had for a fall. I think I've got about seven or eight. But yeah, and each one I'm just really, really excited about. Just from the species we're going after, the type of hunt, just all across the board. I'm looking at my calendar and just like, dang, I cannot wait for August 30th to roll around.
Are these all films, or are you also hunting?
I will be filming predominantly all of them. I do have a little bit of time set aside in September, kind of the end of September, for just a general archery elk hunt in Idaho with my wife and one of my really good friends, Tyler, from Oregon. But besides that, it's just mainly filming this year. I took a bunch of time last year and hunted myself, and then spent some time reflecting this winter during the long, crazy cold winter we all had. And that was like my main takeaway from my reflecting on last year, was just like, I filmed like 4 or 5 hunts, and I was like, I want to film more. And I've been doing it for a number of years now, but I think just in this season of my life, I just still really have that passion is still burning pretty hot to just film as much as I can, learn as much as I can, and just keep building a solid foundation of work. And I love my work. I love to work. And I love the people I get to work with. So
nice. Where can people find your work?
Like I said, probably just my Instagram is a decent way. I don't update it as much as I should with photos, but that's where you can probably see a lot of just like my photography, but some of my videos as well. And then for a lot of my hunt films, the GoHunt YouTube channel, the Leupold YouTube channel, Mountain Ops YouTube channel, those are good places to see a lot of it. But yeah, and then also my website, just look dusenburyphotography.com. I have a hunting tab, and I think I have it fairly up to date. I probably should go check that, but that's where I can see like pretty much all my hunting films on there as well.
Nice. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it. Have fun back east, and we'll talk to you later.
Will do. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks, man.